Thank you, Madam Speaker. To the bill?
To the bill.
Thank you, colleagues. I am so glad that we get to talk about voting today. I think it's something that we all cherish, we value, and we hold very dear. But I'm asking myself this question today. What could go wrong? I encourage us to think about this question before we vote on this measure. What could go wrong? While I certainly support expanding opportunities and removing barriers to people registering to vote, I don't know that this bill results in an invasion of privacy, and at best and at worst creates a massive public safety concern. This is a good time to note that I have voter registration forms in my office. I typically carry them in my car, and I hand them out to people at every opportunity. It's important to register to vote, and it's really important to exercise that right. When you turn over your personal information to the Department of Motor Vehicles, your records are held in confidence, protected by Oregon privacy law. The law protects personal information contained in DMV records and only allows those records to be released to specific entities under specific circumstances. Examples of those entities include vehicle manufacturers for recalls, safety advisories, and agencies to carry out their governmental functions. Many more are included, but not just anyone can walk into DMV and leave with your address. The bar for the release of personal records from DMV is set high, for good reason. However, if House Bill 2177 passes, the personal information housed by DMV will be transferred from one government agency, DMV, to another, Secretary of State's office, and once more to another, the appropriate county clerk. Not only does this transfer of sensitive information raise question in light of Oregon's questionable history on IT projects, but now an individual's private information will be housed with another agency and can be obtained by anyone by simple public records request. While I applaud the governor for her dedication to removing barriers to voter registration, which is exactly why I carry those cards with me most times, I question whether compromising the privacy and safety of uninformed, non-consenting consumers of the DMV is the best way to do this. Considering the troublesome history of personal data breaches and IT failures in Oregon government, including Secretary of State's office and other agencies, I would conclude that this is not the way to encourage voter participation. I am concerned about what could go wrong. Being a former police officer, I am concerned about people's protection, and I urge a no vote today on House Bill 2177.
Further discussion. Representative Nearman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
To the bill?
No, Madam Speaker, I have a question of the carrier.
Oh, excuse me. Question of the carrier. Does the carrier yield?
Yes, I do.
She does.
Thank you. To the representative from West Eugene and Junction City, it's my understanding that every eligible record that the DMV collects will be transmitted to the Secretary of State prior to the person being able to opt out. Is that correct?
Thank you very much for getting me the question in advance. I very much appreciate that. Yes, that is correct.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, to the bill?
To the bill.
Colleagues, I'm a software engineer by trade. I've written my share of bugs. I've been involved in projects where management vision has far outpaced a responsible assessment of the capabilities of the software to perform as designed and to produce what was required. As one who works on the ground level of software development, I have a healthy respect for what we can expect software to do and what we cannot. I have grave reservations about this bill. This state has a decades-long and nationally infamous record of failed software projects. I suggest this is not just as simple as having the DMV send records over to the Secretary of State and registering everyone to vote. I suggest that, like other IT initiatives, this is hastily and poorly planned, and I fear we will pay not only with dollars, but with headaches. Colleagues, I need not remind you that the Employment Department and even the very Secretary of State's office, which is promoting this bill, will be responsible for this data, and both have been recently hacked, and records possibly exposed to identity thieves. Each link in the chain of custody of data exposes another vulnerability of this data to those not authorized to have it. This is private, personal data, and to expose this data prior to that person having a chance to opt out is irresponsible. I urge a no vote in order to protect the privacy of Oregonians. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Further discussion? Representative Post.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To the bill.
To the bill.
Thank you. Good morning, colleagues. It is a gorgeous day today. Beautiful sunshine outside. I personally, as much as I love sunshine, I would like to see snow because we need it in our mountains and we need it for our streams. Now, why do I bring that up? Because I can't make it snow. And we've already talked about we can't make people vote either. We can't do that. But we certainly can't also make them turn something back in that they may not want to turn in, or send something in the mail that they may not want to send in the mail, or to check the box that they may not want to check the box. We can't make people do these things. I probably as much or more than anyone would love to see every single eligible voter in Oregon vote. I have been pounding on a table for 5 years on a radio show. Vote, vote, vote. Been screaming at them, register to vote. And I don't even care who they voted for. I really don't. I just want them to vote. And so I'm very passionate about this. So you have to understand that I am very passionate about this. I want people to vote. And perhaps nobody, and I'm not a betting person, but if you want to bet with me, I'll bet nobody in this building has registered more people than I have. And I'll tell you why. Not because I've gone out and knocked on doors so much, but because I talk to tens of thousands of people every day on the radio for years and years, and at least once a month, I walk them through the barrier of signing up to vote. Smartphone. Let's all do it together, fans, is what we would do. And I literally would walk people through, here's how we vote, live on the radio on a monthly basis. It took about 2 minutes, and it was tough. Now, let's say somebody didn't have a smartphone. Great. We had cards, and I hand the cards out. Look, I don't need to go through all the details. It is simple. We have a great system in Oregon, and I'm grateful for it. It's a fantastic system, but it's not broke. And as I'm famous for saying, if it ain't broke, why fix it? It ain't broke. There are no barriers. What barrier? I can't fill out a postcard? I can't get on a smartphone or a laptop or a computer? It's so easy. It's made for anybody to do. On September 20th of 2014, approximately 945,000 postcards were sent to Oregonians as part of the Electronic Registration Information Center to attempt to reach eligible voters who might not be registered to vote. The goal was to get all eligible Oregonians registered. Now, if a person received the postcard but didn't register, it would seem to me that they have already opted out. So why do it again? Election Director Jim Williams stated on October 4th of 2014 that he believed the registration response rate at that time was approximately 0.1%. So that means 1,000 people signed up. Woo. County clerks have stated that no noticeable increase in voter registration occurred on or about that time. Our counties will spend approximately $1.50 per ballot to send out the ballots to the projected 300,000 new voters. And again, I'm thrilled that there would be 300,000 new voters. This is the money, though, that counties do not have. My own county clerk, Bill Bergen of Yamhill County, gave me this, and I would be glad to forward this to anybody. It's probably too late, but I'll be glad to forward it to anybody. In 2015-16, based on the Secretary of State's own estimated numbers of new voters, my county, Yamhill County, will pay on a low $32,742, on a high $36,189. 2017, it goes to $69,000 for a low, $77,000 for a high. He stated, we can't afford this. We can't afford it. Why does it cost that much? A ballot is 20 cents. An insert is about 5 cents. Outer ballot envelope is 35 cents. Return ballot envelope is 35 cents. Secrecy envelope, 30 cents. Voter's pamphlet is $1. Extra help is 30 cents. So on and so forth, on and on. I'm not going to bore you all this. It's $1.50. It's $1.50 for everyone. So basically, in closing, this is what I want to say. In the 2016 elections, we could make a real difference by doing our jobs as state representatives and as folks, citizens, which is why I was elected here, to be a citizen, to represent citizens. As citizens, we should all do our best to get people registered to vote and just impact them personally with how important it is to register and vote and be a responsible citizen, but not in this manner. He can't afford it. We can't afford it. Let's do the right thing. Let's let the people of Oregon decide themselves whether they want to register or not, and let true democracy be the order of the day. I urge a no vote on House Bill 2177. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. Further discussion? Representative Parrish.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, I actually wasn't going to
To
say...
the bill?
To the bill. I actually wasn't going to speak on this bill today. No makeup on. I wasn't planning to get up and say anything about this bill. The fact is, an email I received this morning has me up on the floor. And I want to just say, whether you're going to be a yes or a no, that's your choice. You go back to your district and you do that. And I think there are reasons that this bill is flawed. And we do have actually Second Amendment rights where we don't opt people into a CHL, even though it's my right to own a gun. I don't own a gun. But the fact is that there are people who do not want to be opted in. I work with veterans on a regular basis, and I know a lot of Vietnam-era veterans who really want no part of our government. They live here, they fought for our country, they have a driver's license, so they're obeying the rules of the road, but they really don't want much else to do with us. They don't trust us, and that's a shame. So there are people who choose to not opt in to vote. I could also argue about domestic violence victims, and I see that there's a floor letter on the desk trying to sort of say that no, they'll be cared for, but I don't feel comfortable with a public records law and domestic violence victims having their names, which are not currently part of the allowed for a FOIA request for DMV, to now be able to be sold to their offender or their abuser for $500. There are several other flaws with this, certainly around data transfer. We saw where the Secretary of State's website was hacked last year, and things that are totally out of control of the person who's doing that job, hackers from foreign countries who come and attack our websites. But that's not what I'm up here actually to talk about, because I was just going to be a quiet no until I got an email this morning that says that my vote on House Bill 2177, and interestingly, and I appreciate talking to Representative Frederick, who has not seen that email, so maybe I have to assume that it only came to folks who might be likely no votes. But my vote on House Bill 2177 will be part of the racial equity report card, and my no vote basically implies, although it was very politely worded letter and attachment, but that it's implied that my no vote means I don't care about race issues in this state. I have a real problem with that. This bill is not about race. This bill is about campaigns, and this bill is about all kinds of other things that I think it's about. But I certainly don't think it's about race. My dad came here from the Middle East and immigrated from a very war-torn situation and wanted to be part of this country, and he became a citizen, and he registered to vote and voted in this state. My brother's dad came here illegally from Mexico and really wanted to be a part of the fabric of this nation as well. People come here and they believe in our form of government, and they have a right to go and vote. So we have a pretty diverse household. I could go on and on about, other members of our family who are not Caucasian. I have bills this session, colleagues, that I think move the dial on race and solving inequities, real inequities like post-correction supervision and education choices for families that are locked into zip codes by their income or by the determinants that are keeping them from moving forward in life. Real things that solve race issues in our state. Issues where we have people who are, by their race, at a higher propensity to be put into jail, not graduate from high school. Those are the race issues I want to work on. But to say that House Bill 2177 suddenly implies that my X in somebody's scorecard makes me a racist is very disingenuous, and I am angry about getting emails like that from folks. So I'm just saying I'm a no vote. Not because I don't care about race issues, but because it's a bad bill. It has flaws. It has potential to open us up, I think, to lawsuits for people who get opted in outside of their will. Democracy is also about choosing not to participate. And when we forget that and we opt people in, I really try to avoid yes votes on anything that takes away the choice from a citizen. And this bill does that. Thank you, colleagues.
Representative Hack.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To the bill.
To the bill.
Colleagues, while I know that all of us desire to remove obstacles to voter registration, and our intentions are well-meaning, we must exercise great caution before we pass legislation like House Bill 2177 that automatically registers Oregonians to vote. I am greatly concerned that House Bill 2177 implies that Oregonians aren't capable of making their own decisions or taking care of their own affairs, and that it is up to government to make decisions for them. Oregonians should take offense. I am completely supportive, as I know all of you do, to increasing voter participation, but am greatly concerned that is not being done on a person's own accord, but by a government rule. Therefore, I strongly urge a no vote on 2177. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Further discussion. Representative Bentz.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To the bill.
To the bill.
Colleagues, 300,000 more voters is what this bill anticipates. That's roughly 15% of the total registered voters in Oregon. So today, when and if this bill passes, we will have taken the first step in adding that many new voters to our registered group. 300,000 voters. We should all celebrate the opportunity for 300,000 more people to participate in this process, but if we check, we'll find that in large part younger voters don't vote. So to get too excited about what we're doing today would be unfortunate. What I would suggest we do is consider three things. First, get enough money in this bill to help pay for the work it's going to take to do it right. Second, make sure that one of the bills that's floating through this House that talks about civics lessons for kids gets passed. And third, and most importantly, this is extraordinarily important, we recognize that this phrase I'm about to read is true. Even as opponents of voter ID laws freely admit, absentee and early voting really does lend itself to large-scale fraud. When millions of people cast ballots with no one watching, it's easy to pay vote harvesters to pressure or pay people to fill out ballots and hand in only those with the right votes. Today, folks, we are going to add possibly 300,000 people to that group who could be subject to harvesting because they haven't perhaps paid enough attention to what they're supposed to be doing, which is learning how to vote. As the representative from Lake Oswego in Southwest Portland pointed out, she's highly interested in voting, and that is great. Most of our young people aren't. So, we are a mail-in ballot state. We are 2 weeks of absentee balloting, or 3. Let's not add 300,000 people to the group that's available to be harvested. Let's educate these folks up so they learn and exercise their rights, this most valuable right, appropriately. That's not in this bill. It needs to be. I'll be voting no in hopes that the Senate will add some of the laws, such as this, which is a law in one of our states, making it illegal to read the ballot to the voter, illegal to direct the voter to read the ballot, illegal to mark the voter's ballot, or illegal to direct the voter to mark the ballot. Let's make sure if we're going to add 15% more voters to our system, we do it right, and don't cheapen this process by making it easier to cheat on it. And, by the way, cheat on all of us. Vote no, please.
Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To the bill.
To the bill.
A number of you in this chamber talk about your dedication to standing up for the underdog, looking out for the small guy, the disadvantaged, and the weak. And I think for the most part, you're sincere in your statements. But I'd like to give you an opportunity today to be consistent in your thoughts by thinking about the financial impact of House Bill 2177. I'm a business person, a business owner, and I'm also a resident of Josephine County. So believe you me, I've heard the story that the check is in the mail before. And I have a hard time believing it in some cases. The problems in Josephine County are legendary. We've already had to empty our jail once, and barring another miracle at the polls, and I don't think it's going to happen, we're going to empty our jails again on July the 1st. Median income in Josephine County, and I'm talking about the median household income, $31,200. Our true unemployment rate in Josephine County, probably more like 20%. We have a huge problem with crime. Thank you for donating your share of state troopers to Josephine County, because we do not have a sheriff's office that really functions, and without your help giving us your troopers, we would really be in trouble. We have trouble with public intoxication, drunkenness, aggressive vagrants, and many, many people in my county are now carrying guns as a matter of course. What you give yourself an opportunity to do today is kick Josephine County squarely in the pants by supporting this bill. My county clerk tells me that in the first year alone, this is going to cost a broke county $7,800. In subsequent years, up to year number 8, call it $15,000 per year that we do not have. That is money that is going to be squandered, that will be of no benefit to anyone, because interested people already vote. The next time that you're tempted to think that it is too hard to vote, I'd like you to think of this. This morning on my walk, I went down to the corner of Cottage and Court, the World War II Veterans Memorial, and I saw the names of a whole lot of dead people inscribed there. You know, on that wall were 19-year-olds in World War II who jumped out of Higgins boats into the pounding surf of Omaha Beach, surrounded by corpses wearing their same colors. On that wall, people who froze to death at Bastogne in World War II in that theater, wrapped in blankets, wearing rotten combat boots. Next time you think it is too hard to vote, we're making it too difficult to vote, think of those who are stoking boilers inside the bowels of a destroyer, hoping their gunners were accurate and the helmsman was nimble. Realize that those people died so that this constitutional republic with a voting system that has integrity would live. They died so that we would have that for ourselves and our posterity. This kind of weak response to civic responsibility is nothing short of embarrassing to me. This kind of enablement, this kind of spoon feeding is not what made America great. And I hope for that reason alone that you will vote no as you think of a broke county and you think of people who died that we might have a voting system with integrity. I hope you'll vote no on 2177. Thank you.
Representative Buehler.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To the bill.
To the bill.
Well, in my race for Secretary of State, I learned a lot of things about elections, including how to lose them. But as a citizen of the Republic, I like the idea of making voter registration and voter participation easy. That's a good thing. I think we can all agree on that. And that's why I'm a supporter and advocate of vote by mail. As a Republican that believes my party needs to do a better job of competing for the hearts and minds and the votes of the high turnout independent electorate that already exists in Oregon. We need to do a better job. But also, as a libertarian-leaning Republican, I really dislike the idea of the state government intruding into the personal decision and choice of each citizen to decide to register to vote. Automatic voter registration replaces individual convenience with government coercion. I draw my good colleague, Representative Rayfield's attention back up to the mural, which captures a momentous occasion in our state's history, probably one of the biggest decisions of which union to join. If you look carefully, most people really want to be involved, but there's 3 guys up there in the left corner who really, even though it is an important day in Oregon history, could care less. Now, we're not going over there and dragging them back over to participate. I think we're at risk of doing that. Oregon already has some of the highest voter participation of any state in the nation. That's a good thing. And we've done so by making voting easy and appealing to the civic responsibility of our citizens. I fear taking the responsibility to register to vote away from individual citizens and putting it in the hands of a large and impersonal government actually undermines liberty and undermines responsibility of each citizen to be civically engaged. Registering to vote is the right and responsibility of each American citizen. It should be very convenient. It should be very easy, but it should not be the law. Thank you, Speaker.
Second time.
Madam Speaker, to the bill one more time. And colleagues, I apologize.
To the bill.
I just received this email. It was some data that I was looking for, so this is a sort of a data analysis. You know, I appreciate the spirit in which this bill is brought to this body, but interestingly, this bill actually doesn't solve the problem of people getting a ballot. And I want to explain to you why. As of this morning, there are 441,812 inactivated voters in this state. So let me tell you how you get inactivated. If you haven't voted in 5 years, your ballot status turns off under our current laws. If you have any indication, if the county clerk has any indication that your data is not current, you can be inactivated. If your signature doesn't match when you sign your ballot and you turn it in, and they kick it back to you with a letter that says, hey, you have 10 days to update your voter status, somebody who's an engaged member of the electorate, then guess what? Your voter status is turned off. So in 5 years, all of these people who do not, haven't engaged with us to be registered to vote, in 5 years, they'll be inactive and they won't be voting anyway. Now, I have 2 bills on inactive status with the right relating to clause. If colleagues, if we're going to do this right, then let's turn on the inactive voters, because this bill doesn't solve that 441,000 Oregonians are who want to be voting, who once upon a time registered to vote, are disenfranchised from voting in Oregon right now. And that is a quirk, actually, of our vote by mail. So I actually like vote by mail, and I too remember voting the first time in a 1992 election, and I was once a member of the Oregon Student Lobby before it was the Oregon Student Association. So I too recall the 1992 election. If we're really going to be intellectually honest about having people vote, then you better turn on the 441,000 Oregonians and let them vote too, because once upon a time,
Representative Reed, for what purpose are you in the queue?
Madam Speaker, I'm sure she does not intend it. I wonder if the representative is making germane points to this bill.
Thank you, Representative. Yes, Representative Parrish, we're kind of moving off the topic of the bill.
Well, actually, I mean, the comments on this floor today have been about how this will enable the electorate. So when we have laws on our books that are contrary to this, I actually do believe it's germane when 441,000 Oregonians can't vote. And I will leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Further discussion. Representative Stark.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To the bill?
To the bill.
So I had no intention of speaking today. In fact, I was dreading carrying my first bill today. Thank you for carrying that over, but for some reason I'm sitting here prompted to speak anyway. It's no secret to many of you that I am a pastor, and that's a hat or a card that I plan on not playing very often. I hope to be able to separate the difference between church and state at the right times and speak at the right times about issues that revolve around those two issues. I've been sitting here over and over listening to people talk about granting this right, giving access to a right to individuals. And I am absolutely for voter registration, and I'm absolutely for people voting. I want people out there and involved. But I'm concerned about a part of the population that this bill would remove one of their rights and diminish their rights. There's a certain segment of our faith community, of our population, that of their faith beliefs, they have chosen not to register to vote. It is their religious belief not to do that and not to participate in that. And I think it's absolutely inappropriate for us to take that group against their beliefs and require them to vote. This is something, if you read through their doctrines, it's not a flippant thing that they've thought about and suddenly thrown out and said, oh, I just don't want to be part of that. It's something that their spiritual convictions have told them not to do. And this bill would force them against that will. And so for that reason, I will be voting no against this bill, and I encourage your no vote. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. Further discussion. Representative Esquivel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To the bill.
To the bill.
Colleagues, some of us in this room have been in the military, and some of them have protected your rights. For that, we get to stand on this floor and say what we want to say, except without impugning one another. And I think that's the most precious thing that we could possibly have in this country. But you know something? When we fight, and we fight to protect your Second Amendment rights, the right to have a gun, there's your First Amendment rights to speak, of freedom of speech, assembly, voting, we do that. And all the veterans are nodding, yes. But you know something, folks? You don't have to opt out of those other rights. Think about what you're doing. Thank you.
Okay. I feel so strongly about this, and I know you could tell the passion in my voice and the passion in your voices. It really has been a pleasure, a privilege to have this discussion. I haven't heard yet, and I wasn't at the hearings, so that's why I was going to ask the carrier. I wasn't at the hearings. What are the barriers? Because as I demonstrated a moment ago, and I know not everybody has a smartphone, what are the barriers? I still haven't heard that today. Maybe I was missing that part, but what are the barriers currently in Oregon? I'd like to see it in black and white or very simply described to me. What are the barriers? Thank you.